Welcome back. This is part 3 of your best season ever. So let's talk about what happens before we actually get into the season, as well as how we're each going to feel at the end of a great season. So that end of the season is fresh in my mind right now. So let's kick off with that. It'll slide me out of the way here. So what is it like when we get to the end of a good season? What are our memories like? Well, we're going to remember a great race performance, and we're going to remember our key workouts, and we're going to remember being at a very high level of fitness. And what I mean by that, let me give you some context. So at the beginning of my season in the winter, my functional threshold power on the bike was about 250 watts, and that was estimated. I didn't have the mojo to try and hold 250 watts for an hour. I just did lactate testing and I estimated it. Now, the last event, the Alpe d'Huez triathlon that I did, my normalized power for 4 hours and 45 minutes on the bike was about 250 watts. So it was a whole different level, maybe 2 different levels better than what I was able to do at the beginning of the year. That transformation happened across the year. Now, intellectually, I can tell myself, oh yeah, I can remember what it was like in November and December, the despair I felt because I felt like my bike had fallen so far compared to where it was at the end of the prior summer. But the reality is I won't remember that. What I'm going to remember going into next season are the highs of right now. So these memories, and you need to be aware of that. They can really lead you astray. And this is where a training log can be very valuable because you will know and you can go back to the log and you can see what your typical winter performance is. And then you can also look at the log and you can give yourself comfort. Well, if I just play my cards right, I'm going to be able to get back to that level. And perhaps I might be able to get to a slightly higher level. But I want you to remember something. It's not necessarily pushing the blue line up. You want to get back to a performance level, a half-day performance or a full-day performance level. So the blue line itself, this load, is not really what it's all about. Now, the higher you get as an athlete, you need to remember that more and more. It's ultimately about performance, not load. And you may find that you need to give away some load so that you can focus on the components of your performance that are going to generate these race performances for you. So don't get too caught up in that, okay? So that's the mindset. So I used to have to give my very motivated athletes a reminder that they did a lot more easy training than they can remember because that easy training falls away. We don't remember it. We remember the big sessions, the fast sessions, and the challenging sessions. But they are all underpinned, remember that wide pyramid I talked about, by a lot of consistent, easy volume, which is supporting the entire pyramid. Now, the number one mistake I made as an elite was not applying what I just explained to you and seeking to hold on to fitness. So I didn't do a proper off season. And I wasn't patient when I came back. I was in a hurry to get back to race shape so I could go turn up places, stroke my ego, win races and trophies and things like that. But if ultimately you're about having these breakthrough performances, basically peaking, a true peak close to your ultimate potential every 1 or 2 years, or in some cases, every 4 years for some of our very best athletes, you need to go through these fallow periods, these low periods where you're building up your mojo and you're not really challenging yourself. So remember that as well. So what's that look like? Well, before we even got on this chart, I had a month where my week was 2 swims, 2 bikes, 2 runs, 1 or 2 strength sessions, all pretty mellow, just keep the body moving, get my life in order, and then come back into training. But back into training at a moderate, balanced level, just getting myself healthy, keeping my life in order. And that's what that kind of stable line is showing you. So 2 things there. So we're talking about shedding the fatigue from a breakthrough season and in some ways shedding those memories and not letting our memories of peak performance mislead us when we get back into the subsequent season. Really hard to do. When you're at a high level, you're going to be tempted. I can feel it now. It's like, I went to France. I had a blast. I raced well against the competition. Who's next? What's next? Well, next is a year away from me. It's like next July. And what I need to do is start putting the pieces in place so that I can do the training in that window, that 4 to 11 weeks before July window, that'll really boost myself, that ramp again. And everything else is about preparing my life and my body, and making sure that my immune system and my mojo is ready to go when I need it, not trying to kind of have a really difficult fall or winter season for myself. So I hope you benefit from that, from my experience and my mistakes. And I hope you will recognize these feelings when they appear. They appear in all athletes, this desire to hold on to fitness and this reluctance to let ourselves come down. Lots more in the archives. Hit the subscribe button, have a look around, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.